Have you ever gotten to the end of your day and you looked at your list? Now, whether it was a physical list or a digital list or a list in your head, but you got to the end of the day, you looked at your to-do list, and you're like, I didn't get a single thing done on this list. And yet I know I worked very hard today. What happened? And in fact, not only did I not get anything done on this list, I had to add 5 new things onto this list. Well, if that's happened to you, you want to stick around and watch this video. You see, back when I was an employee, back in March of 2000, I got this job. I came in, I was the only developer of this company, and they asked me to come and create a system that they could actually move off of this other system they had their clients on. We were going to try to do this by January 1st of 2001. That's when we had to have the first client moved over. Well, I spent most of my day helping out other people, answering questions, because they just lost their COO at the time. And I was going around as a developer trying to understand how all the company worked. So I went through all the different departments trying to understand how everything was working, asking a bunch of questions. So I had a really good understanding of how the company worked, what each department needed from the others and things of that nature. And as a result, I found myself as like the go-between to some departments sometimes. But that's not what I was hired to do. I was hired to create software code. I was hired for a purpose, but I was doing other work instead. So I went to the owners. I'm like, there's no way this can continue. I cannot continue to work on other people's problems during the day and then on my problems at night, actually creating the software. So they let me start working from home. I actually started working from home in October of 2000 and never went back into an office since. Here we are in 2024. But even when I went home and was working from home, I still was working 80 to 100 hours a week because I had not learned what I'm about ready to teach you in this video. Now, later on in my work career there, I remember telling a buddy of mine that worked at the company, I said, what I've determined is I need to only be working on things that I can work on. If it's a task that I can do and somebody else can do, somebody else needs to do it. The only thing I should be doing is stuff that only I can do. Now, this is because, again, I was the only developer in this company. And so if somebody needed software created, I was the only one that could actually do that work at that time. So it didn't make sense for me to be doing work that somebody else could do. Especially, I was probably one of the highest paid employees there as a developer at the time as well. So it didn't make sense from a company perspective either. So instead of making the company suffer, I just suffered. I just took on more work, being, salary. That's what I did, is I just ended up spending more time doing other stuff I shouldn't have been doing and then doing the stuff I should have been doing. What I've since learned is what we put on our to-do list really matters. And that's where I came in with this concept. You need to insist on intention and you need to ignore the irrelevant. So I'm going to say that again. You need to insist on intention and you need to ignore the irrelevant. So what do I mean by that? Well, what is your intention to get done today? Everything that's on your list. What is it? What's your intention? You need to insist on getting those things done. You need to ignore any irrelevant things that come up trying to get your attention. Now, there's a notion of the Eisenhower matrix, the Dwight D. Eisenhower matrix. Dr. Stephen Covey made it popular in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So you actually have the 2 axes here of importance and urgent. And most of us spend our time doing things that are important and urgent. But sometimes we find ourselves doing things that are not important, but they're urgent. But where we need to spend most of our time is the things that are not urgent, but they are important. That's where our focus should be. Obviously, there will be fires. Things will have to be taken into consideration, But if you put systems and processes in place, you can spend more and more of your time working on the important things that are not urgent instead of working on the urgent things that are also important. Or worse off, working on urgent things that are not important, but they feel important because they're urgent. So our list, our to-do list, we have to be intentional about what goes on there. Is it important? Not is it urgent, but is it important? And early on, it will be stuff that's urgent and important. And we have to resist putting things that are urgent but not important on there. So how do we determine what's important? Well, the way I do it is I kind of think about things in, goals, if you will. Again, I had a video talking about you focus on your inputs and not your outcomes, in which case I said it doesn't really make sense to have major goals. And I do believe that, but I will think about a goal from the standpoint of this is the direction I want to hit. Okay? So in 3 years' time, in this area of my life, this is what I want. Therefore, in 1 year of my life, and 1 year from now, in this area of my life, what do I need to get done in order to hit that 3-year mark, right? And then break it down further and say, okay, over the next 4 quarters that make up this year, what are the 4 big goals I need to hit in order to hit my 1-year goal? And then for each quarter, what are the monthly goals I need to hit for that quarter? And then for that month, what are the weekly goals I need to hit? And then finally, what are the daily goals I need to hit to meet this weekly goal, right? So when you break things down that way, that's how you determine what goes on your list of to-do. These are the important things. If I don't make progress on this to-do today, then I jeopardize my to-do for the week. And if I jeopardize that to-do for the week, then I jeopardize the month, and then the quarter, and then the year, right? So that's how I determine what's important. Is what I'm thinking about here, is this going to help me reach where I want to be in a year, 3 years? Okay? So now that's on your list, you still have to actually insist on the intentional. Insist on doing the work that you've been intentional about putting on your list and ignoring the irrelevant. So in that quadrant, in that matrix, there's a quadrant of not important and not urgent. You should totally do away with that. So have explicit time for relaxation and restoration. But don't default into spending your time there. Don't default into mindlessly scrolling social media or going after YouTube video after YouTube video or playing video game after video game. Cut it out. Because if you're not where you want to be in life, then you don't really have time to waste, right? It's okay to have relaxation time, but that needs to be scheduled and to be time blocked. Okay? So that's the easy stuff. Get rid of that. You don't need it. Okay. What's difficult are things that are urgent and important. Things that are urgent and not important, over time you'll be able to factor those things out and says, this does not meet my goal. It's urgent, but I'm going to let it fall over to the wayside, or I'm going to have somebody else do it. I'm going to have a VA do it or whatever. But technically, if it's not important, then it probably shouldn't be done. It probably shouldn't be done. If it's urgent and it's important, you still try to figure out somebody else to actually take care of that. Or if you have to do it, you still need to block off time so that you can actually focus on what is important, so you have less and less things that are urgent and important. So you focus on what's important but not urgent. Standing operating procedures, automating tasks, like putting systems in place so that you don't have an angry customer calling you or something because something fell through the cracks. Put processes in place so things don't fall through the cracks. Don't just fix the immediate issue. Okay? So you need to insist on the intentional. By insisting on this intentional items on your list, you're only going to be working on the stuff that really, truly matters. If you do that, at the end of the vast majority of your days, you'll be able to knock off the stuff that matters, ignoring everything else that's vying for your attention. If you like this video, chances are you'll like this next video. I'll see you in the next video.